All right. Well, we know Atrioc hates crypto. And the big question is Atrioc right? Is crypto as dumb as we think? Now, crypto's left a very bad taste in our mouth, and that is absolutely justifiable. I mean, we have fraud after fraud, rug pull after rug pull. You know, this lady right here stole $4 billion through a scheme called OneCoin and is on the FBI's top 10 most wanted list. There's plenty of fraud going on here. And this begs the question now, does crypto deserve to be hated on? Absolutely. Undeniably, crypto deserves to be hated on. There's too many scams going on, and this technology is riddled with fraud. However, this begs the question of why hasn't crypto died? If it is just full of scams, if this technology has no purpose, why hasn't it gone away? Now, there's some possible options. One, people love gambling. With the rise in sports betting, you know, this is, this is a clear trend where people are desperate for get rich quick, gamble their savings away. And this is popular and an undeniable driver within the crypto industry. However, there's another more serious implication with crypto is that it can change the way the financial system operates. My thesis is it's both. Now I'd like to introduce the Bank for International Settlements, or the BIS. And you might be wondering, who is the BIS? Basically, they are the central bank for central banks, and they help facilitate payments between nations. And they were established in 1930, and they've operate around the world and are a substantial international financial power. They were established after World War One as a German clearinghouse, or as a clearinghouse for German reparations, and they've acted as an important player in currency exchanges up until the 1970s, and now they're still focused on helping facilitate payments between nations, but also focused on establishing policies for future financial decisions that will help create stability in financial or fiscal policy, and these are widely adopted throughout its member groups, which is a substantial portion, aside from Russia, which makes sense, of the major global powers. Just diving a bit into where the BIS stands, they have $325 billion in deposits and $21 billion in gold. This just highlights really that this is a substantial financial institution. It is not, some niche cryptocurrency company. Like, these are major players within the financial space. Now, this begs the question of what is the BIS's vision? And I'd like to highlight a quote from Augustine Carstens, who's their the current leader of the BIS, and these rotate through. These individuals hold terms as the leader of the BIS, and then they're cycled through. Currently, Augustine Carstens is. And basically, they're envisioning a new type of financial system. He may have been a bit bold here, but saying we urgently need a Neil Armstrong moment. We need to take that one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. In our case, this could be a successful and complete tokenization of wholesale CBDCs and commercial bank deposits. Their claim here is really the failure of crypto markets is not in the technology itself, but there has been no central backing of these assets. So their vision is to create a centralized digital currency that is utilized by the BIS and helps facilitate international settlements and other backing for this new digital currency technology. Now, going quickly into kind of how current banking works. So for something like a domestic wire transfer, basically if I want to transfer to one of my friends, I initiate that transfer from my bank. The bank then sends a payment order to a settlement institution, And then that settlement institution initiates that payment towards my friend who I'm trying to pay, his banking institution, before finally it reaches my friend and he receives the payment. Now, the issue with this system is that it is a tedious process that in and that if there's some sort of failure at any link of these steps, it bounces back and there's a failure of the transaction. This becomes even more complex as you get into international settlements, and that's the reason why it takes so long for a transaction to occur. And this, has implications not only in that you don't get your money as fast, but this also just slows the rate that transactions or settlement times slow the rate of economic progress, because it delays how fast money can be transferred to individuals to get the ball moving on different financial interactions. Now, what is the benefit of having a digital currency? So really one of the big benefits of digital currencies is that it's a programmable token or representation of an asset. Now that could be a single dollar, so you could have a digital representation of a dollar, or a token can be a more intricate asset class. So there's some examples I'll get into later, but the big value in this is that you have a representation of an item that is then wrapped in programmable, rules of what that token can then do. And the value in this is it removes the need for middleman and regulators along the transaction chain to validate a transaction. This can all be done when a token is transferred. That token can self-validate whether or not the transaction should occur. So you could set some preconditions in order for a full transaction to take place, that if those transactions preconditions aren't met, the transaction fails and is bounced back. But this again removes the need, going back to kind of that traditional wire transfer, for that intermediary settlement agency to mediate these transactions. The other benefit of a token is it expands the horizon of what can be viewed as asset classes, and what sort of things can be represented as tradable assets. And this opens up new financial markets that can be traded on. The vision is kind of similar to the stock market, but for things that are traditionally maybe more sticky assets or harder for the general public to have access to trade on these asset classes. Now, basically, the BIS wants to take these digital currencies and make them act as if they're money. And the big benefit here is that they are fast and that you are able to send these representations of money rapidly through digital channels in ways that aren't currently possible with the traditional finance rails. These digital currencies, depending on what sort of technology you're using, can have settlement times of a couple seconds, which is just unheard of, especially for something in relationship to wire transfers or other asset transfers. One of the big things though with cryptocurrency right now is there's not much KYC or know your customer. And so there is a big need for a central authority to come in and set ground rules and identify that when individuals are interacting, that both parties know who they're interacting with, and that the institution that's settling these transactions also knows both parties. And this is, big for preventing things like fraud and illegal activities. So going back to the BIS's vision, they want to make a unified ledger, which allows basically instant swapping of assets. And basically, in this chart, we see the traditional way that this is done, where there's a settlement body and a clearinghouse, and like all these different parties have to come together to allow the exchange of an asset. And with a unified ledger, this allows you to rapidly exchange security tokens or other, any sort of token from a buyer to a seller's, or a seller to a buyer's custodian, which eliminates a lot of the middle ground and a lot of the time wasted in these intermediary steps. Now, one of the big challenges is how this would actually get implemented. Obviously, a fully fledged unified ledger would be most streamlined and would be most beneficial from a technological standpoint, but it seems unlikely that everyone's going to be willing to just fall under a single unified ledger, and it'll probably be some amalgamation of figure A or B, where you have programmable platforms that are APIing into traditional financial systems. Now I want to talk about where this project stands. This project is falling under Project Angora, and this is basically the BIS's project where they're trying to tease out the feasibility of digitalizing currency and helping facilitate kind of the base rails for new digital tokens to take place in the financial markets at a broader scale. And I want to highlight here that these are not small institutions. These are all convened. All these groups are convened by the Institute of International Finance. And these are all groups that are working together to help facilitate the development of this product. Now, given that, the big question is this private or public? Or will this be private or publicly available? And specifically for, an investment perspective, it's important to understand that these institutions probably want to keep their hands on as much of the assets and the value of these products as possible. So it's not like, Dogecoin is going to be used to facilitate international transactions. It'll probably be a more private based network. However, I do think there will be a mixture of both, where we will see strong technologies being built on top of a underlying ledger that supports these new financial systems. And these companies are likely investable products, but I think it's difficult to identify exactly who will be the major players in this space at this point. Overall, distributed ledger technologies do solve real problems. There are many dominant players in this space that are looking to utilize this technology to advance our current financial architecture. And there's going to be an acceleration of this technology by these central players that are going to set the groundwork for additional markets to be built on top of them. But most importantly, most cryptos are scams.